Ever feel like you're drowning in information? I mean, seriously, it's everywhere, right?
Yeah,
Headlines
accurate.
that just don't make sense, ideas that are way too complex to grasp in one go, and so much stuff feels shaky. Or even like someone's deliberately trying to mislead us.
Totally.
So today, we're tackling something super important, something that can help us navigate this crazy information overload.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into critical analytic thinking.
It's a skill we need now more than ever.
It really is. It's about truly understanding those complex things we're talking about, not just accepting them at face value.
Exactly. It's not just about memorizing facts.
Right.
It's about analyzing them, asking the tough questions, and forming your own conclusions based on solid evidence. And what's fascinating is that this isn't something you magically develop when you turn 18.
Yeah, not at all.
The roots of critical analytic thinking actually start way back in childhood.
That's what we're going to unpack today. The development of this crucial skill from those early years all the way through adolescence. We've got some incredible research that sheds light on how we can nurture those skills, both at home and in school.
We'll start with the building blocks.
Yeah.
The foundational skills that kids develop early on. Things like their language abilities, their social and emotional growth. Then we'll see how these skills are fostered in the home and in preschool through the interactions they have with their parents and their peers.
And then we'll move into the K-12 years, looking at how schools can build on that foundation through programs and strategies specifically designed to enhance critical analytic thinking. The key takeaway: even the littlest ones have the potential for critical thought.
Absolutely.
And the environments we create can make a huge difference in how those abilities blossom. So where do these critical thinking skills begin? Where's that starting point?
Well, the research is very clear. Critical analytic thinking isn't something that just pops up overnight. It's a process. It builds gradually, layer upon layer. And one of those fundamental early layers is language.
Language, okay.
Like Vygotsky's work really emphasizes. His research showed that learning is very much a social process, and language plays a crucial role.
Right. He highlighted how essential language is for all those higher level thought processes.
Yeah, exactly. That whole idea of internal and external speech.
Yeah.
How kids talk to themselves in their heads, how they talk out loud with others. That's actually how they process information at more and more complex levels.
So true. It's like they're practicing their thinking.
Exactly. As their vocabulary expands and their ability to understand others deepens, it opens the door to abstract thinking.
So a bigger vocabulary, a deeper understanding equals more abstract thinking.
Precisely. They start to grasp ideas that aren't concrete, that aren't right in front of them.
But language doesn't just develop in isolation, right? I mean, it's part of a bigger picture.
Of course, it's all interconnected. Social and emotional skills, early experiences, play, conversations. All these things contribute to how children build those mental models of the world.
Those mental representations.
Exactly. They help children understand how things work and that ability for abstract thought. Well, that's really the foundation for being able to engage critically and analytically later on.
So we've got these building blocks, these foundational skills. How do early environments like home and preschool actually nurture them? What's going on there?
It's subtle, it's woven into everyday interactions.
Right.
It's not like parents are sitting toddlers down for logic lessons.
No, definitely not.
One really interesting concept from the research is this idea of decontextualized language.
Decontextualized language. That sounds kind of complicated. Break it down for us.
Imagine language that goes beyond the immediate situation. It's not just about what's right in front of you. It's taking a step back, explaining why things are happening. Like instead of just saying, look, a bird, you say, oh, that bird is building a nest. Do you remember when we saw a bird building a nest in that tree last week?
I get it. So it's language that's more about making connections, about explaining.
Exactly. It's like when you tell a story about something that happened in the past, or when you're reading a book and you talk about the characters and what they're doing, even though they're not physically there in the room.
So it requires a bit more thinking, a bit more imagination.
Absolutely. And it's crucial for developing thinking skills because it challenges kids in a few key ways.
Okay, how so?
First, it's often more complex linguistically. It uses a wider range of vocabulary, more intricate sentence structures. Second, the meaning isn't as obvious because it's not tied to what's happening right in front of them. They have to rely on the words themselves to understand. And third, it often deals with cause and effect, trying to understand sequences, why things happen the way they do.
So it's like a mental workout for those abstract thinking muscles.
Precisely. And by the time they reach preschool, most kids are developing the vocabulary and cognitive skills to handle this kind of language. And being exposed to it regularly during this time gives them practice with that kind of academic language they'll encounter in school. It's like building a solid foundation.
The research backs this up, right? I mean, we've got Roe's 2012 study.
Yeah, that was a fantastic long-term
Yeah.
study. Rowe observed parents and their kids over time. And what they found was that parents naturally increased their use of decontextualized language as their children got older. By about 3.5 years old, almost 10% of what parents said to their kids during playtime involved these kinds of explanations, narratives, and pretend scenarios.
Wow.
And then a year later,
What happened then? What did they find?
they found a strong link between the amount of decontextualized language parents used at that earlier point and their children's vocabulary skills. Parents who incorporated more narratives and explanations into their conversations had kids with much larger vocabularies.
That's huge.
It was significant. And this connection held even after they accounted for other factors like the child's initial vocabulary level, the parent's education, how much the parent talked overall. It really highlights the importance of the type of talk.
So it's not just about how much you talk to your kids, it's about what you talk to them about.
Exactly. Telling stories, explaining things, those are the real drivers of vocabulary development. It's not just naming things, it's connecting ideas.
So how do we sum this up for the listeners? What's the bottom line?
Talking to kids about things that aren't right there in front of you, that's key. And especially explaining why things happen, that really seems to boost vocabulary development.
It makes perfect sense when you think about it.
And the researchers believe it's not just about vocabulary. They think it's the child's active engagement in these kinds of conversations that helps foster those critical analytic thinking skills too.
It's like their brains are getting a workout without even realizing it.
To follow along in a decontextualized conversation, kids have to think abstractly.
Right.
They have to try to understand other perspectives. And those are at the heart of critical analytic thinking.
And what about book reading? I mean, that's a huge part of early childhood too. Does that play into this?
It does. A 2014 study by Leach and Rowe looked at how parents use abstract or inferential questions when reading with their preschoolers and how that relates to those kids' narrative abilities later on. We all know adults ask questions during book reading, right?
Of course. I mean, it's natural.
Yeah, it's a way to guide their understanding and language development.
But not all questions are created equal, are they?
No, they're not. Some are very literal. What color is the cat? And others are more inferential, requiring a little more thinking, like, why do you think the cat is hiding?
So one is about remembering what you see, and the other is about thinking about the reasons behind what you see.
Exactly. And this study found that preschoolers are really responsive to their parents' questions during book reading.
That's interesting. So they're paying attention, they're engaged.
They are. And they're more likely to respond to those inferential questions. In fact, the odds were over 3 times higher.
Wow.
That suggests that kids are more intrigued by questions that challenge them a little bit.
It makes sense, right? I mean, who wants to just answer easy questions all the time?
Exactly. But what's even more interesting is that those kids' responses to the inferential questions actually predicted their narrative abilities later on. So when parents ask those challenging questions, the why and what if questions, they're encouraging kids to think more critically about the story.
It's like pushing them beyond just the surface level.
And that, in turn, helps their own storytelling skills develop. It helps them create more complex narratives.
It's amazing how something as simple as asking the right questions can have such a big impact.
It really is. So we've seen how parents play a crucial role. What about interactions with other kids?
Yeah, what about peer interactions? Especially during play.
That's another incredibly rich environment for developing these skills. When kids interact and play together, it's beneficial in so many ways.
They learn from each other, right?
Yeah, exactly. They pick up new things from their peers, they're motivated to tackle challenges together, and they get tons of practice using the skills they're developing. You see it in classrooms all the time, how peer interaction can spark discussions, even shifts in understanding.
And the research really highlights cooperative problem solving with peers as something special.
It is.
Why is that?
When 2 kids work together to solve a problem, it naturally requires cooperation and problem-solving skills from both sides. Piaget, for example, argued that when kids of similar abilities work together, they have to really understand each other's viewpoints to find a solution. It's that back and forth, that trying to reconcile different ideas that pushes their thinking.
And it happens organically during play, right? You
Exactly.
don't have to force it.
Think about two kids building a Lego tower.
Okay, yeah.
They have to figure out who puts which block where and why.
It's all about negotiation and compromise.
Exactly. And for young children, the way they talk to each other during play is setting the stage for some key aspects of critical analytic thinking.
How so?
Just think about it. To even start playing together, they have to communicate their ideas, they have to figure out what they're going to do, maybe set some ground rules,
Like what?
whose turn it is, what the rules of the game are, and inevitably, disagreements come up.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe they have different ideas about how to build something or who gets to be the superhero. That's when the negotiation starts. They have to adjust their plans and work towards a new, shared goal.
So those little squabbles are actually little exercises in critical thinking.
In a way, yes, that whole process of creating and achieving a shared goal during play, it requires pretty advanced communication. It requires understanding what the other child is thinking, what they believe about the game, and being flexible, being able to adapt when things change.
Right, because things never go exactly as planned, especially with kids.
Never. They encounter different ways of thinking, different approaches.
And that's a good thing.
It is. It teaches them that there isn't always just one right way to do things, and that's a key element of critical analytic thinking.
So play isn't just about having fun. It's a training ground for critical thinking.
Exactly. It teaches them to be flexible, to consider other perspectives, to solve problems collaboratively.
I always knew play was important, but I never thought of it quite like that.
It's powerful stuff. Now, while kids are remarkably good at communicating with each other, research shows that the structure of the activity matters.
The structure?
Yeah. If a task is too challenging, it might not be as beneficial for them to work on it together compared to working alone. And even when they're discussing and disagreeing, it doesn't always translate into better learning if the task itself is too overwhelming.
So it needs to be challenging enough to engage them, but not so challenging that it's frustrating.
Exactly. And that's why play is so great for developing these skills.
It's familiar.
Yeah, it's motivating, it's positive.
Right, it's usually a fun experience.
It helps them establish those shared goals and work towards them together. And play is often child-driven. Adults take a back seat and there's flexibility.
So they're in control.
Exactly. There's no single right answer, which leaves room for different ideas and perspectives. That encourages them to explore different ways of solving problems and learn from each other.
It's like a sandbox for their brains.
Yeah, I like that. It's a sandbox for their brains. And those early experiences with problem solving and perspective taking, those are the building blocks for later critical analytic thinking.
And Romani's 2012 study really underscores the power of child-driven play.
It does. That study looked at how the structure of an activity affected preschoolers' cooperative problem-solving skills.
Okay, so how do they do that?
They had 4- and 5-year-olds working in pairs to build a playhouse.
A playhouse, that's cute.
But they had two different conditions. In one, it was child-driven, so the kids had more control over setting their own goals. In the other, it was adult-structured, with more specific instructions.
What did they find?
The kids in the child-driven play condition, they talked more positively with each other. They were more engaged. They were more creative. They also built more complete and complex structures, even though the basic task was the same.
Wow, it's a big difference.
And here's the kicker. Those advantages seem to carry over to a completely different problem-solving task they did later. So giving kids more agency in those playful settings really seems to boost their skills.
That reminds me of the research on student engagement.
Oh, yeah.
You know how students tend to learn more deeply when they have more interpretive authority.
Exactly, like Murphy and colleagues have found.
Yeah.
And then Ramani followed up with another study in 2014 focusing on block play.
Block play, as in just building with blocks.
Yep, simple as that. They observed 4- and 5-year-olds building houses with blocks after some general instructions, but no specific steps. And what they found was that the kids had all these rich discussions about the design, what the blocks represented, the spatial relationships between them.
So they weren't just stacking blocks, they were thinking about what they were doing, planning, and using language to express their ideas.
Exactly. They even found a link between the spatial language they used and the features they included in their houses.
That's really fascinating.
It really is. It shows that something as seemingly simple as block play can be a great way for kids to practice language, math skills, spatial reasoning, all in a way that's critical and analytic.
It's like sneaking in learning through play.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, so we've seen how these foundational skills develop in those early years. What happens as kids move into more formal education, the K-12 years? How do we build on that early foundation?
Well, those early interactions, whether with parents or peers, set the stage for later learning. And schools can play a huge role in strengthening those skills. And you're right, the research highlights classroom discourse as a key piece of the puzzle.
Classroom discourse. You mean just the talking that happens in class.
Yeah.
But so much of that is teacher-led, right?
Right. But it's more about the quality of that talk. We're not talking about simple question and answer sessions. We're talking about discussions that are more interactive, more thought-provoking.
So what are we aiming for? What does good classroom discourse look like?
One effective approach is cross-age peer discussions.
Cross-age, so like older kids interacting with younger kids.
Exactly. Just like kids benefit from interacting with peers their own age, they also gain a lot from interacting with those older and younger than them.
Makes sense. It's like getting different perspectives.
Yeah, and it's inherently motivating. Younger kids often look up to older ones, seeing them as role models. And older kids often feel a sense of responsibility when helping younger ones learn.
It's like a mentoring dynamic.
It is, and studies have shown real benefits for both age groups.
Oh, really? Can you give an example?
There is a study by Topping and his colleagues that looked at cross-age reading programs. Both younger and older kids who participated, who really talked about the text they were reading, showed greater gains in their reading achievement.
That's great. So it benefits both the mentor and the mentee.
Absolutely. And they found similar results in math. Students who worked together and discussed word problems, both the older and younger students, showed more improvement.
That's really encouraging. Why do you think that is? Why is talking with someone older or younger so beneficial?
Well, for one thing, it forces you to think about how to explain your ideas in a way that someone with a different level of understanding can grasp. When you have to really make sure you're being understood, it makes you think more carefully about what you're saying and how you're saying it.
That's so true. I remember tutoring younger kids in math, and I always felt like I understood it better myself after explaining it to them.
Yeah, it's like teaching is the best way to learn.
Exactly.
And it ties back to Vygotsky's idea of socially mediated learning.
Right. How learning happens through interaction.
Exactly. Van Kier and Vanderlyn also emphasized this, highlighting how these cross-age programs really put the focus on communication. Internalizing new knowledge often starts in a social context.
So it's not just about individual learning, it's about learning together.
Right.
Now, these cross-age programs, they don't just throw kids together and hope for the best, do they?
Oh, definitely not. Structure and guidance are crucial. John Hattie, for example, pointed out that programs like Reading Together, where older and younger students work together, rely heavily on careful preparation and supervision.
Teachers play a big role.
A huge role. They need to provide clear instructions, model good interaction strategies, and provide ongoing support. The more structured these programs are, the better the outcomes tend to be.
And there's that great example of a well-structured cross-age program developed by Silverman and her colleagues, right?
Yes, their program paired kindergartners with fourth graders, and the focus was on boosting vocabulary and reading comprehension, particularly in STEM subjects. They even had special support for English language learners.
So they really thought about the needs of different students.
They did, and a key element was that both age groups received preparation lessons before they even met.
Oh, interesting. So they weren't just going in blind.
Not at all. The younger kids would preview the vocabulary and main ideas of the content, and the older kids, they'd practice leading the lessons and interacting effectively with their younger partners.
So they had some tools to work with.
Exactly. Then they'd get together, watch a video, or read a text, and have structured conversations about it. And they'd do activities to reinforce the vocabulary and concepts.
So a multifaceted approach.
It was. And they taught the younger kids specific skills like speaking clearly, listening, participating. The older kids were taught how to encourage participation, ask open-ended questions, give clear explanations.
It sounds like they were really intentional about every aspect of the program.
They were.
What were the results? Did it work?
Over the course of the program, both the kindergartners and the fourth graders showed significantly more improvement in vocabulary and reading comprehension compared to students who weren't in the program. And their conversations became more complex and more substantive.
That's amazing.
And teachers reported that both groups were more motivated in class, and they even started using some of those strategies they'd learned in their regular lessons.
That's incredible. So while they weren't directly testing for critical analytic thinking, it sounds like there were definitely signs that it was being fostered.
Oh, absolutely. The older kids had to really think about the material to ask those good questions and give helpful feedback. And the younger kids were getting guided practice in critical thinking. Plus, having a peer as a mentor, someone closer in age who might use more relatable language, probably created a less intimidating learning environment.
That makes sense. It's like learning from a cool older brother or sister.
Yeah, exactly. And the researchers believe that fostering critical analytic thinking might even have broader impacts. It could boost motivation, it could increase persistence when things get tough.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah,
The more you practice thinking critically, the more confident you become in your abilities.
exactly. But they also acknowledge that more research is needed to fully understand all the dynamics at play in these cross-age programs.
Right. There's always more to learn.
There is. So we've talked about cross-age discussions. What about discussions with peers of the same age, especially as kids get older?
Yeah, how does that play into developing critical analytic thinking, especially in middle and high school?
Well, theorists like Piaget, Vygotsky, Rogoff, they all suggested that we should see more evidence of critical analytic thinking in adolescence. And we do see it, right?
Yeah, I mean, think about teenagers debating a book or discussing current events.
Exactly. They're capable of having those deep conversations, of analyzing information. They have the cognitive skills and the emotional maturity.
But does that automatically translate to what happens in the classroom?
Not always. Observations show that a lot of the critical analytic thinking that happens in classrooms is still very teacher-guided.
So it's there, but it needs a little push.
It does, and that's where interventions like Quality Talk come in.
Okay, quality talk.
It's a discussion intervention developed by Murphy and her colleagues specifically to enhance critical analytic thinking.
How is it different from a typical classroom discussion? I mean, what makes it special?
Well, first, it emphasizes shared control. The teacher might choose the topic, but students have more say in what aspects they want to focus on.
So it's less about the teacher lecturing and more about the students exploring.
Exactly. There's also a strong emphasis on what they call epistemic engagement.
Epistemic engagement. That's a mouthful.
Basically, it means digging deeper into the why behind things. It's not just about knowing the facts, it's about understanding how we know them, what assumptions we're making.
I see. So it's about questioning the information itself, not just accepting it at face value.
Precisely. And Quality Talk has four main components. First, the pedagogical principles.
Okay, break those down for us.
Things like setting ground rules for respectful discussion, focusing on big questions and rich content, encouraging diverse perspectives, promoting collaborative understanding. It's about creating a supportive and stimulating environment for learning. Second, the instructional frame. It incorporates that shared control we talked about. It connects knowledge to students' lived experiences, and it emphasizes both emotional and intellectual engagement.
So it's about making the learning relevant and engaging for students.
Exactly. Then there are the discourse elements.
Okay, what are those?
These are specific ways of talking that encourage critical analytic thinking, like asking genuine, open-ended questions, building on each other's ideas, pushing for higher level thinking, making connections to outside experiences, providing detailed explanations, and using language that signals logical connections.
It sounds like it's teaching kids how to have a productive and intelligent conversation about what they're learning.
It is.
That's fantastic.
And as part of the intervention, students actually get taught about these discourse elements through mini lessons.
So they're learning the rules of the game, so to speak.
Exactly. And the fourth component is the teach a discourse moves. These are things teachers do to guide the discussion, keep it flowing, and encourage deeper thinking.
What kind of things?
Summarizing key points, modeling critical thinking, prompting students to elaborate, respectfully challenging their ideas.
So the teacher is still a facilitator, but in a different way.
Exactly. More of a guide on the side than a sage on the stage.
And crucially, for quality talk to really work, it involves ongoing teacher professional development and coaching.
Absolutely. Teachers need support to become skilled facilitators of these discussions.
And does the research show that it actually works? Does quality talk actually improve critical analytic thinking?
It does. Studies have shown that it can lead to significant improvements in high-level reading comprehension, critical analytic thinking, and even language fluency.
Wow, that's impressive.
And in science, it's helped students develop more evidence-based scientific models and arguments.
So it's not just theoretical, it has practical applications in the classroom.
Absolutely. The researchers often point to specific examples of how classroom discourse changes after implementing quality talk.
Oh, I'd love to hear an example.
There's this great one from a high school physics class. They'd done an experiment where they observed different colors in a film of dried nail polish.
Interesting.
And they were trying to explain this phenomenon. Before quality talk, these students rarely ask questions. They just passively accept the first explanation given. But after just a few mini lessons on asking good questions and giving elaborate explanations,
What happened?
one student gave a detailed explanation, even drawing a diagram,
Wow.
and then the other students jumped in.
That's great.
They asked clarifying questions, they offered alternative interpretations, they challenged parts of the initial idea. It was a complete transformation.
That's a really powerful example of how changing the way we talk in the classroom can unlock deeper understanding.
It really is. And it brings us back to that central theme. Engaging kids in challenging conversations, whether it's at home or at school, is incredibly powerful for fostering critical analytic thinking.
And it's not just important for school, it's important for life.
Absolutely. It helps them navigate that world of information we were talking about at the beginning.
Right, that constant barrage of news, opinions, everything in between.
Exactly.
But there's still so much more to learn in this area, isn't there?
Yeah.
What are some of the future directions for research that the researchers highlighted?
Well, they emphasize the need to dig even deeper into those early childhood interactions to really pinpoint what kinds of conversations are most effective.
So more research on the specifics of what works best.
Exactly. They also suggested developing interventions specifically for young children, intentionally increasing those high-quality interactions to see if it translates into measurable improvements.
Yeah, it would be great to have concrete strategies that parents and educators can use.
Absolutely. And of course, we need better ways to measure critical analytic thinking as it develops.
Right, we need to be able to track progress and see if what we're doing is actually working.
Exactly. And we need more professional development for teachers, more support for parents.
They're the ones on the front lines, shaping young minds.
They are. And we need to shift that mindset of seeing classroom talk as a distraction. It's a powerful learning tool.
So the challenge is to foster a culture of what they call dialogic inquiry
Yeah,
in all our interactions, at home, at school, everywhere.
exactly. Making those conversations a regular part of life.
And that leads to a really important question for our listeners.
Oh, yeah.
Think about how different the world could be if we actively fostered this kind of dialogic inquiry everywhere.
Hmm.
A generation of individuals who are skilled at analyzing information, considering different perspectives, making well-reasoned judgments.
That's a powerful thought. It's not just about individual benefit. It's about creating a more thoughtful, more informed society.
And that's something worth striving for.
Definitely.